y'all. Thank you for joining me. My name is Chris Hennessy, and this is Ending the Stigma, where we have conversations with people just to talk about all things justice involved, addiction, and all the stigmas that go with it, and just to kind of portray that as not good, like the stigma is not good, and just talk about people being people that have messed up. So let's say hi to a few folks. Kenny D is in the house on you. Kenny, what are you doing on YouTube, man? You know the party is on LinkedIn. Randy House is here. Thanks for dropping in. My boy Jeff Wallner from GW. Oh yeah, Jeff Wallner, GW. Yep. Holly. Hi, Holly. Haven't seen you in a while. Who else is here? Who said, hey, Randy? Oh, that's Jeff. Hey, Lisa. Enrique, what's going on, man? Thanks for dropping in. Thanks. Yeah, I moved offices, so this is like it looks okay, but like I share this room with like 4 or 5 other people, and it's really kind of hectic. But yeah, I appreciate you showing up, man. So anyway, my guest tonight is Portia Louder. Kenny, you just can't get right. You got banned again. I think your next profile needs to be Can't Get Right instead of Kenny D. Hey, Maria and Steven. What's going on? I tend to squirrel out on the comments, y'all, so just bear with me. Anyway, my guest tonight, she's done time. She talks a lot about it on social media. She has a really unique way of looking at it, though. Instead of focusing on like the struggles and stuff after she got out, it is just like, to me, is the purest form of ending the stigma, is to talk about the relationships and the people she met and the relationships she built while she was inside. And just the amazing, and we were talking about this on Zoom last week, just some of them, I've met some of the most amazing people in my life in prison. Some of them I'm still friends with today. I just spent the weekend with my buddy Zach. We did time together on the PAC unit. So anyway, without stumbling over this intro anymore, I'm going to bring out Portia. Hi.
Hey, Chris. It's so good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's going
to be all these cool people that are watching.
I know. It's awesome. I love it. I love it when people show up.
Yeah,
it's hot in here. I need to adjust my fan where I can actually feel it. So tell us about Portia.
Oh man. Yeah, well, I'll give you the stats real quick. I'm 51, going to be 52, have a bunch of kids, been married for a while, and I'm the oldest of 7 children. So you could say, and I was raised kind of middle class in Utah, in a small town in Utah. In fact, my parents were really like hippies back in the day. Like they were hippies before it was a thing. So when people say they were, so when people say, you know, they're against vaccinations, I'm like, oh, my parents were into that long ago.
Right.
They were kind of anti-establishment. And so, and I think that has been good and bad in my life. So I struggled because life was pretty chaotic. And so being the oldest, I kind of had this, I guess I've had therapists say I was parentified. I don't know. But anyway, my first real struggle in life was boys. So like, it's those boys. Anyway, it was boys. And I think thinking that what they thought of me was the most important thing. So really relationships, even before I started to party and getting into trouble. And so even 12 and 13, I'm dating boys that are 16 and 17. So like I was doing things that now are super illegal. But anyway, at the time I'm living in the country, and I ended up pregnant young, was partying and struggling that way. And then my dad got transferred to Salt Lake City, which is, I had never even been to Salt Lake City. But when he moved up, I moved up there as well. And so I was a single mom. I actually had 2 kids at the time. Ended up getting into prescription drugs and then street drugs. And then finally in my 20s hit this bottom. And for me, it was coming home late one night, and my boy, who was 8 years old, had been crying, waiting for me. And my mom said he'd been there for a long time and that all he wanted was me. And she's like, if this isn't enough for you, Portia, whatever would be, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so that night I just begged God, which I didn't have a relationship with, but I just said, help me change. I'll do whatever it takes. I'm so tired of the way I'm living my life. And so I went and asked a guy that I knew was involved in, you know, the program, AA program that I wasn't familiar with at all, but he got me involved in that program. And I think I told you this, but the first time I went to a support group meeting, the guy in the front of the room, like it gave me hope, you know, because he's lit up. He's got recovery. He's not, I mean, I'm not where he is. And if he's done what he did and he got there, there's hope for me. Right. So I went up to the front of the room and I said, how do I get what you got? And he hands me this book and he goes, you got to become a good person. And I'm like, how am I supposed to do that? I'm like, that seems overwhelming, you know?
Yeah, you make it sound so easy.
Yeah, like follow these steps. So
yeah,
but my whole life changed. You know, I got sober. It was what I thought at the time would be the hardest thing I'd ever do. Craving the lifestyle, the drugs, all of it, but I walked away from it. And then I met the man that I'm married to now, who's a great guy. He adopted my kids. I started my own photography business, and I remember just being grateful for what I had because I knew the difference. I had been in some really dark places. And so, and life was going pretty good, except that the other problem I have is I just have lots of kids. I just keep having kids. And so, and I always say, like, you think I figure out what causes that, but my husband and
I know, right?
After we got married, I've tried one time. I have 6 kids. I've tried one time. So we have our son. And then 18 months later, I have another baby. It wasn't planned. And so now I've got kids that are older, kids that are younger. And my business is growing like crazy. And I had a back surgery and I relapsed on prescription drugs. And the way my addiction works for me is it's like, you know, I'm super powerful and important when I use those drugs. And so for me, I thought real estate was a good idea. And I ended up getting involved in some illegal real estate deals. And it was like the 2005, 6, 7 leading up to 2008. And one of the challenges that I had is that I had been able to kind of power my way through a lot of obstacles. But now I'm up against the feds, like the FBI shows up, you know?
Oh, that's great.
If anyone's ever dealt with the feds, it took me a couple of years to figure out that, like, I'm really up against myself. Like, all my own weaknesses, they're just a brick wall. They're going nowhere. Like, there's no way that I'm going to power through this situation, you know?
Right.
So I remember fighting, you know, trying to fight, and ended up walking into a courtroom anyway. And at that point, I remember this feeling of complete loneliness. Like, I'm sitting in the front of the room and the judge says, or no, the bailiff or whoever, the United States of America versus Portia Louder, you know? And I'm like,
you're like, oh crap, the whole damn country's against me.
That's exactly what I'm thinking. I'm like, doesn't seem like a fair fight. You know? You know, and I just remember feeling such sorrow, like looking back at my husband and my kids and thinking, what have I done? Like, how did I get here? You know? And I had pissed everybody off because I had been really unreasonable. And so the judge, I think I was facing 0 to 7 years. And if he could have given me any more, he would have, but he gave me the 7. That was all that was on the table, you know? And I remember him saying, you'll be a mother again someday. And I'm looking at him going, can he do that? Can he make me not a mother now? Like, I was it was just surreal. Yeah. But, so yeah, I got 8 weeks, which now I know was a huge gift because a lot of people don't get that. And I said goodbye to my kids and my husband.
You got 8 weeks before you had to go in?
Yeah.
Really?
Well, he tried to lock me up right then, which would have been kind of unusual because I was white collar. So usually you get a little time. But because I had just been so difficult, he's like, let's take her into custody today. So, and then my husband,
he was tired of you. Get
he
her
was
out
so
of here.
done. Yeah, he was so done. I was tired of me too, honestly.
Right.
But my husband got up and he pled with the judge. He's like, please give her time to say goodbye to her kids. So I felt two things. I remember feeling so lonely. And then I also felt this strength of, my husband's solid. We're going to get through this together as a family somehow. I don't know how, but, and my life has never been the same since I was sentenced. Like that day was life-changing.
Right.
I remember on my way home being so, I couldn't even speak for like 2 hours because I was just in shock. It was like everything just changed. And I remember thinking, how could I have been so foolish? How could I have thought money mattered? Like, what was I thinking, And then my husband took me to Dublin, California, because in federal prison, you just go wherever they send you. Like you can't, there's not a federal prison in Utah. So, which is like a 13-hour drive, so it wasn't like I was going to get regular visits with my family. And I left my husband broke too. So it was pretty tough, but, he dropped me off, and I remember walking in to federal prison and going, nobody seems very happy to see me. It was just like everyone's wearing khaki and nobody's saying welcome. Like it was because I've never been to prison. Like I don't know anything about this,
Yeah.
And
that is one of the most surreal moments when you walk in. And I'm going to interrupt you and just tell you a quick of my going into prison for the first time.
Yeah.
You walk in. I went to the Gurney unit in Palestine, Texas, and they have footprints on the floor. You stand on those footprints, get naked, do the strip search, you do the dance,
Yeah.
And then they tell you to go take a shower. And there's a row of showers on the wall. And they give you a little bitty bar of soap about this big and about this thick.
Yeah.
And I put it in my hand and I get it wet and I go up my arm, and on the way down, I dropped it. I've been in prison for 15, 20 minutes tops, and I already dropped the soap. And I remember thinking, God, is this the way this is? I was the only one in there, but still, like you're out in the open in the intake. And so I turned around with my back to the wall and squatted down and picked the soap up. Anyway, I was thinking, God, is this really how this is gonna go? Like, is this really how this is gonna go?
Right.
Anyway.
Yeah. It's a surreal experience, I remember being in orientation. So I was there for, the first few weeks, but I didn't leave that cell for 3 days. Like I was devastated.
Yeah.
All I could do is imagine I had a 7-year-old daughter, and the judge just told me that I was sentenced to as long as she's been alive. It's kind of mind numbing. I couldn't even really get my arms around any of it. And all I could do is imagine my children's faces. And my roommate, my bunkie, she's like, you got to get out. You got to leave. And I'm like, go away. What are you talking about? And then she goes, things can get worse in prison. Things can get worse. If you don't get out of here, they're going to throw you in a suicide cell. And I'm like, you have to eat, you have to move, And so now I know, like, because I've been to the shoe now. So now I know, like, things can always get worse. So,
right.
But anyway, I remember getting on my knees finally and just saying, God, I feel like nobody to anybody. Like I have failed everybody. I failed my family, my children. I am in the deepest hole, man. I just need to know who I am to you. And I remember feeling so much love in my jumpsuit, on my knees in my, A&O cell, and knowing that I had an important purpose on this earth, like at my lowest point. And also I could see that I was incredibly valuable, and everyone in that prison was too. And I'm so grateful for that experience. Like it definitely wasn't, I served 4.5 years, and I'm not going to say the time was easy, but knowing who you are and getting that connection, man, it gives you something
game
to fight
changer
for, right?
Yeah.
So you got to figure out who you are, and then you're like, do what you got to do. I know who I am, I I think my first year was pretty much denial. If I had to sum it up, like, I'm like, oh, I'm getting out. My lawyer's getting me out. I'm not doing all this time.
You were that person?
Yeah. Oh, and those people drove me crazy by the end.
Oh, they're annoying, aren't they?
Yeah. Oh, I'm not doing this time. Whatever. Yeah. I'm just here for
I'm on appeal. I'm fixing to be on appeal. I'll be out of here in no time. 5 years later, we're still in the chow hall together.
Yeah, it's so irritating. But anyway, my next year, total devastation, because that's when things got real. I'm like, oh, I'm doing the time, and that's when my heart really broke, because it was like, I really got to turn things around. And then I got to this place where I could see that there was something going on, that there were a lot of people stuck, and that I needed to own it. I needed to say, I had to find my way into ownership of, I did this to myself, whatever the feds did, because I was so caught up in, they are so dirty. They let the banks go. They let everybody else go. Why me? And then one day I'm like, I did this to me. I am done being a victim. I can't do it anymore. I'm sick of myself like this.
It's tiring, isn't it?
Yeah, it's exhausting. And so then I made a list of, the people I'd hurt, the things I'd done. I told my kids came to see me. I thought, I'm going to die. They're 6 inches taller. I haven't seen them for months. And my son has got a serious chip on his shoulder. He tells the principal to F off at his school, because his principal tells him, I don't want you to turn out like your mom. And he's just exploding. He's so mad, And I look at him and I go, Jackson, I don't want you to turn out like me either, buddy. I don't want you to go to prison. And I said, this wasn't his fault. This wasn't the cop's fault. This was my fault. I did this. You can be angry at me. It's okay. And that's when we started healing as a family. It was so painful. Oh, I remember just curling up in a ball and just hurting because of the way I hurt my kids. And that brings me to the point, like, so many amazing roommates and people that I met that we walked through this together. People whose lives, like, they've been through the hardest things, and they are right there for you. They're praying with you. They're writing you letters and leaving them on your locker. I had one girl that just every morning she'd bring me in an apple, because she knew, like, that was my favorite thing to eat. So even if she wasn't going for breakfast, she'd run in, I got you an apple, Miss Portia. So sweet. So sweet.
I love that. Guys aren't quite that lovey-dovey in there.
The women are really so.
But the bond you have with someone that you did time with, like, you don't understand it unless you've done it, unless you've lived through that.
Yep. For real.
It's totally different than anything else.
Yeah. There's this connection that you share. Like, is the minute somebody says, I've done time, I'm like, sweet, I'm in good company. Like, now I know who you are. We've got each other. There's I remember when I finally got to the halfway house, and that, like, I hadn't been around men, so I'm used to women, and I'm sitting there and I'm like freaking out. I'm going, I just want to go back to prison, man. I am not comfortable out here. I miss my friends. So I'm sitting there on this couch, and it's super uncomfortable. And this guy walks up and he's like, are you okay? I'm like, no, I am not okay. I don't want to be here. He's like, you're going to be okay. He's like, it gets better. He's like, I saw your husband, like, it looks like you got people that love you. And then he goes, the thing that surprised me the most about prison? And I was like, what? And he goes, that mayonnaise makes everything taste better. He's like, I didn't know mayonnaise made everything. And then I just started laughing. I went, he gets me. He knows.
You know what else makes everything taste better?
What's that?
Corn chips.
Yeah.
I still put corn chips in everything.
Corn chips and mayonnaise. If you got that, you can make a meal anywhere.
For real.
Yeah. But so these friendships,
So were you in a halfway house? Were you still in Cali, or was there?
No, they sent me back to Utah.
Nice. Good.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember the guys had attitude. I met a guy, you probably read my LinkedIn post about Chris, right? Maybe not. I don't know. He passed away of a heart attack, but Chris was like this great big guy. And I met him right when I got to the halfway house. And so I go outside and I walk around, and the guys would go, hey, you need to get off the yard. We want to come out here, because they couldn't come out if I sat there. I'm like, it's my hour, boys. You're going to have to wait. One of the guys, you think you run it. And Chris is like, you better leave her alone. So sweet. I'm like, see, everywhere I go, I meet people that like at the halfway house and prison, people that hardworking, people that got your back that I would trust. I don't understand why the world, like, I would hire someone out of prison in a heartbeat. They're
for sure.
hardworking, trustworthy. I'm
For
like,
sure.
everyone's got it backwards. We should be cheering people on. It takes a lot of tenacity and guts to go through these experiences. And the life that they lived, a lot of times, hard family situations and other situations leading up to prison. And okay, so I had this teacher in prison. This was the first time I knew, like, I'm in the right place. I'm in the education department and I'm teaching there. And this teacher comes in and he's teaching a class explaining your conviction. And he goes, everybody sit down. He's like, you guys are amazing. He's like, you get up every day and you keep going. He goes, do you know how many people out there, including me, couldn't do what you do? And I was like, yes, And to me, that's the kind of stuff that we want to embrace and celebrate. The strength that it takes to get through these experiences is so beautiful. And so, like, you're lucky to have them. So many of my friends have amazing jobs. People value them where they work. But you hear these dumb stories all the time, and
those are the ones you hear.
Yeah. And I'm tired of it.
Exactly.
One bad thing just happens and they want, and I'm like, come on now. I don't know. Anyway, I just see it so different, but yeah.
I had something else. How long were you in the halfway house?
I wasn't in there very long. My husband, so I had family, like, I was so privileged, and I totally get it. I know this now after being locked up. My husband was like the whole compound's husband because no one had one. Like, they called him Good Guy Chad. Everybody would say, hey, can you hit up Chad and see if he could reach out to my, it was just, but anyway, I had a home and family to come back to. So I was only there for like a month and a half. So yeah.
Yeah, that's good. It makes all the difference, man. Like I tell people all the time, being in groups like parole groups and stuff, I see the struggles that a bunch of other guys had. I was extremely blessed in that, I had a family to come home to. God blessed me with a job. Like, one of my childhood friends is the CFO of this company. And he was like, hey, bro, come to work and let me move up the chain a little bit. I had it really good, but I also know, like, I'm the exception and not the norm.
Yep.
And that God blessed me, like, it's not anything I did at all. Like, I'm nobody special. But just, going to parole groups and having to go to AA and all that stuff when I was on parole, you just listen to the struggles and you're like, man, these dudes are like, they're on the very cusp of just like saying, screw it, I'm done.
Imagine coming home and having to pay, $7,000 in fees just to get your driver's license. Like, that kind of stuff blew my mind. How do you drive? How do you, I'm like, wipe that crap away and let someone have a fresh start,
Yeah. How are you supposed to do that? You're getting out of prison, working at Subway, making $12 an hour, and you got to come up with $7,000 while you got a wife and 2 kids at home. Like,
right? No.
What?
Yeah, it's ridiculous, right? Like, it was hard for me, and I mean, it was just it was intimidating. I was like, I'm insecure. I had no idea what that was,
Yeah.
I'm insecure now. I feel a little bit nervous about taking the next step. I've been locked up for a long time, so trying to adjust. I remember just missing my friends, and wanting to connect. Of course, they don't want you to connect because we're all felons. And I'm like, those are the only people that understand, man.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah.
So super,
that was
tough. It's tough.
Who the hell else am I going to talk to that understands what I'm going through?
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Oh.
Well, it's been, what a journey, like, completely different view for me. I just remember thinking, if I go to prison, who am I going to be? How would I, because I have that dumb view, right? Like, if you go to prison, it's over. Like, you're one of them. Like, there's no hope for you if you go to prison, And I think that's why I fought so hard. Like, I can't go to prison. I'll never recover from that. Now, the good thing about that, couple things I had going for me. One was my parents being so anti-establishment that when I got in there, I was like, I do not care what you think. So,
right.
And no one's going to define me. I'm defining myself. So I had that going for me. I'm going to walk my own course. I used to tell people in groups, I'm like, the world is cheering us on. seriously. And they're looking at me and they're like, you're smoking crack. Nobody cares about us. Nobody wants us to succeed. I'm like, no, they want us to win. You don't know. We got to be accountable, man. We're going to come out amazing. And they're looking at me like, you're crazy. But I think my parents' kind of non-traditional upbringing gave me that, like, I will decide who I am. No one else is going to tell me, you know? And then the next thing I had going for me is I was so afraid, well, if I go to prison, what then? And then I was like, well, now what? What the hell then? Nothing now. Like, no, yeah, right. I don't care what anyone says at all. Now I'm totally free because now all I care about is who I am to myself, like my own integrity, you know?
Yeah.
And if I like the way I look in the mirror and the way I treat people, then what other people say is, I mean, I love people and I love to serve, but I am not in it to try to impress anybody anymore. Prison took that from me, and I'm grateful
for real.
So.
Yeah. You know, I didn't grow up in, you know, I grew up in a strong Christian home. Like I was the black sheep that went off and got crazy on drugs and stuff. So like that, and I was a cop beforehand. So like none of this, like
you were a cop.
I was a cop.
You were the police.
I was the police. I was the 5-0. That was me. So I get down there. Yeah. And so like, I don't understand prison culture. I worked in the jail, but you know, I had never lived it. Hey, Tom Whalen, I see you, man. Thanks for dropping in.
So cool to see everyone over there.
Yeah, I love it, man. So I get down there and they're like, hey, you know, they're going to ask you want to get down with this group or that group, or, you know, or you would, or you know, all this kind of crazy stuff. And I'm just like, first off, I don't even know what that means, but so no, I'm not. But then it was like, well, you can't eat with him because he's this color, or you don't do this over here. And I'm like, you know what? You know what? Like, screw y'all. Yeah, you would tell me, like, I don't even know you. I'll never see you again.
Yep.
Because if you're that kind of guy, you're not the one I'm going to form a relationship with.
Right.
You know?
Yep. Yeah. No, I remember there was a gal in prison who was doing life. She'd been there for a long time. And I was in a program with her. And I, you know, at first I'm telling they're going to give me a year off my sentence. First I say, no, I don't want to do that program. And then I get honest and say, what the hell? Give me the program, please. I need the year off, you know? And I go in and the therapist in there, she's like, I said, well, I will call myself out, but I'm not calling anybody else out. That's not what I'm here to do. And she goes, hey, Portia, or Louder. Hey, Louder. She goes, it's cool. She goes, if you don't care about, I thought you wanted to accomplish something in your life. She goes, and if you did, then you would probably want to learn how to set boundaries and put yourself first. But if not, no big. Well, that totally. So I look at everyone, I'm like, I'm coming for you all. So you better just know I'm here for me because I care about you all, but I care more about myself at this point, you know? And so I had this situation where I call this girl who's doing life and she's in the program, her girlfriend out. And when it happened, she looks at me, she goes, you're dead. She's like, you're just dead. That's all there is to it. You know, she's like, how dare you do that? She's just so mad at me. So I go sit on my bunk for a few minutes and I'm like, oh no, that didn't just happen. So I walk downstairs and I go, how dare you talk to me that way? I go, you said you were my friend and my integrity matters to me. And you're going to threaten me because I brought something to her attention? No, you didn't. And she's like, holy crap, Louder, mad respect. You know? She's like, I got your back. Like, you never have to worry again, you know? Because that took major courage. I was like, yeah, I was shaking. Like, I was shaking, you know? And I figured, what do I have to lose? I can either be totally scared or I can let her hit me or something. She just was fine. So it was the only time I was really like thought, you know, because it was like, you're in a treatment program in prison where the therapists go home and you're supposed to call people out. That's hard to do. You know?
Oh my gosh. I have a real big problem with that type of
conflict.
Yeah. The snitch-based rehabs, man, are just like,
yeah. Oh, they made me a leader in that program. And I was hardcore because if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. But it wasn't easy. So it definitely wasn't.
No, yeah, that's hard to do. Like it's got to be tough. I didn't have to go through it. I just heard horror stories, but thank God.
Oh, we connected in the end. Like, I don't know, like when people talk about conflict resolution out here, I worked at a treatment center for a while out here. I'm like, this is so weak sauce. Like This is a piece of cake compared to what I've been through,
Right.
I grew a lot. So I love those girls. I mean, I love them. They're like family to me. So,
Yeah, for sure.
yeah.
So tell us, what are you doing now? Like the book. Like what's the book about? I don't know that I've seen you post about it in a while, and I don't know that I've ever.
I'll send you a link. If any of your listeners want an Audible version, like tell them to message me on LinkedIn, and I'll send them a free audio version. I'll send it to you.
Okay.
But it's just a story of me and all of these girls. Like, it's called A Compassionate Journey Through Federal Prison, Living Louder, last name Louder. And I start out in the courtroom, and then I go back and I talk about, how I got involved in all that garbage. And then I go to, I go to prison, I say goodbye to my kids, and then I just meet these cool people. And it's really like the ultimate ending the stigma, because you can't not love people when you hear their stories.
Right.
You can't. I meet Too Tall, and she's just, each person, you meet these people and you love them. And by the end, I have people all the time say, I want to go to prison. I want to go to prison. I'm like, well, you can do it without going to prison.
You can do it without going to prison.
Find another way.
Yeah.
One lady, she says, you make prison sound charming. And I say, you know what? Prison isn't charming, but I became a much more charming person because I went to prison. Like, I learned things. And so it's not that it's charming, but we have charming experiences there. We connect in really special ways there. And I think it's beautiful because I can take pretty mainstream people that have never experienced it or had family that have gone to prison, and I can connect them to people that have. And it's cool, So what I do now is a lot of things. I am a speaker. I wrote the book, and I go to detention centers and prisons. And I also go to a lot of I've done some corporate events. Even the state of Utah insurance auditors asked me to come speak at their event. I'm like, me? You guys are so smart. Why do you want me to tell you what not to do? Like, I don't know. Yeah, but they were really great. And then I'm doing a TED Talk that's coming up.
You told me about that. That is awesome.
I'm going to talk about all this stuff and the humanity of people who go to prison and ending the stigma. And then I don't know. I just started another photography business, which I had quit a long time ago, and I'm just doing that a little bit. And I get to hang out with people like you on LinkedIn. So, and I have like kids and grandkids, which to me is so beautiful because, I've been home 4 years now, so I get to show up in their lives. Like, they came over last night. And I have a little grandson that's 2 that, like, I am his favorite person. He like cheers when he sees me. Grandma! I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't even be any happier than this,
So are any of your grandkids, were they born before you went to prison?
No. So my first grandson was born when I was in prison, and I honestly thought I was going to die. Like, the pain of watching my daughter have her first child without me there. I thought my heart will break and I will never breathe again. Like, devastating, And now, like, all my ashes have become beautiful. Like, every hard thing has become beautiful. I appreciate it. My life is slower. I show up in their lives. I don't give a garbage about the phone most of the time. Like, when I'm with my kids, I put the phone aside and I just connect. And I learned that in prison. 4.5 years without a phone. Like, I learned how to deeply connect. And I'm more patient, like, with myself and others. I think that I've slowed down. I have more gratitude. And, my kids, they're each at different places in their journeys. But I realized too that their journeys are theirs. Like, I'm not trying to control the world the way I used to. I'm like, I'm loving you and letting you figure your life out. And I'm just right here, and I'll keep showing up. I keep my word. I'm happy, man. I'm a way better person because I went to prison.
Yeah,
I really am.
I am too. I tell people all the time, I hate I had to go to prison.
Right.
And I hate I had to spend almost 8.5 years. But I would not trade those almost 8.5 years for anything because of what I learned, what God did in my life while I was in there, the relationships that were formed, and it made me a better person coming out the other side.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. My life is more beautiful because I went to prison.
Hmm.
I appreciate things. Like I say, I'm just a better person. You know,
Hmm.
I offend myself. My old self is offensive. It really is. I'm like, what? Even when I look at pictures, I'm like, what was wrong with you, poor girl? You know?
Yeah, I know.
Oh,
I have to drive past a house every day when I go to work. I have to drive past a house I lived in when
yeah.
I was probably at my worst.
Mm,
And so I see it twice a day, Monday through Friday. And
yep.
so sometimes, in your half barely awake state driving to work, I'll drive past it, and a memory will come across, or I'll look up at it and be like, what in the actual hell were you thinking, man?
Right. Yeah.
Uh,
It's
uh, Andrew had a question. What city will your TED Talk be in, and when is it?
Oh, well, my TED Talk is going to be in Utah. It's Temp View Drive TED Talk. They just reached out, which is really cool.
That is
A
cool.
friend, another friend did a TED Talk for them, and she's like, you should talk to Portia Louder. And it's going to be October 28th, I think. I'll definitely post it. I'll post it on LinkedIn and everywhere else. So hit me up
Cool.
on LinkedIn and
Yeah.
but yeah, I'm excited. I'm still trying to compose that and figure it out. I do twice a month I go and I speak to like 600 kids, and I have to do that in 15 minutes and share like from beginning to end principles, things I learned, and a little bit of my story. So I'm pretty good at the
Hmm.
whole 15 to 20-minute thing, but I got to figure out how to wrap it a little different than I would for kids. So yeah.
Hmm. That's cool. I want
Yeah.
to say something too. I meant to say it earlier when you were talking about it, but like, how amazing is it that your husband stuck around?
Oh, Chad's a hero for straight up legit. Like, who does this, right? I could not have
Yeah,
done it for him. I'm sorry. I'm
yeah.
just being
I
honest.
was I was very fortunate that I didn't have a wife or a girlfriend when I got locked up.
Yeah.
So I had my family, but I didn't have a significant other. And I used to look at guys, coming back from visitation after their wives and their kids, and you know, and you probably know what I'm talking about. You go to visitation, you're all excited, you're on cloud nine, you're seeing your family, but that walk back to the wing
Oh,
is a bitch.
I
Like you
write
start,
about it in my book.
like it's so bad. Like
Unbelievable.
that
Pain.
last, it's getting down close to the end of your visit, and you're already like your defenses start going up
Oh,
already.
I couldn't even breathe for like 2 weeks afterward. I thought I was
It's
going
so
to die.
bad.
It was
Yeah.
so bad. I know. Yeah, that is a pain. Like, I remember the first time my husband and kids came out, it had been 4 months, and I'm so excited. And a coworker from work, she goes, Portia, she goes straight up, like, I'm excited for you. I'm happy for you. She goes, just know this. They're going to come and you're going to feel like yourself again. And they're going to leave and they're going to take that piece with you. I just want you to know you can talk to me about it if you need to. And I'm thinking, oh, yeah. I have no idea how devastating it is.
Yeah.
When I get back into my cell, I am like brokenhearted,
Yeah.
just
It's tough.
brokenhearted. So, no, I don't know how Chad did it. Like, I have people all the time say, why do you think he waited? And I say this, like, I have a friend right now that her son-in-law is locked up and her daughter, he called me from jail and he's like, what can I do to get my wife to wait? And I said, the only thing I would recommend is that I knew I was going to be worth the wait. Like, I worked hard in prison. I did the work. I prepared myself and I got myself right. Just get yourself right. You can't really control what other people do. Like, whether Chad waited or not, I didn't know. I told him at one point, you should go. You should run. Like, go find somebody. Who wants this? This is terrible.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we have a really good relationship. I think because we did it together, it's like we share a really special bond.
That's got to be just
Oh
something
yeah,
totally special too.
yeah. We're closer than we ever were before because our hearts broke together, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's pretty cool that we were able to do it together. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's awesome.
That is awesome. Does anybody have any questions while we get ready to wrap it up here in a minute? I lost my train of thought. My brain it disappeared. So is your book on Amazon?
Yeah, it's called Living
Okay.
Louder. Even if you
Living Louder.
Google me, Portia Louder, it's there if somebody
Okay.
wants to buy it. Yep.
Yeah.
It's there, and it's cool because it's got some pictures and stuff. I think it's kind of miraculous that I wrote a book. Let me just say this. Like I blogged from prison. So I did have I had an advantage. I had content, and I had no idea I was going to write a book. I was just trying to share with my community. And
You blogged from
oh
prison? Like
yeah,
they
and
let you do that?
oh, it pissed him off so bad. But legally, because that's why I started doing it, Chris, because I wanted to piss them off. But yeah, no. Anything
That's
I can
awesome.
do. It got me transferred. It got me shipped from Dublin to Minnesota. But I kept doing it anyway. And eventually it was, I look back at my old blogs because I was so pissy and mad. And then my life started to transform so you can see it. But yeah,
I bet that is amazing to watch.
that's pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. So I was lucky that I had the content, but my husband, I would email him because we had only one-way email. Well, he could email me back, but there was no other access, right? And then he would post my blogs, but they hated it. Oh, how they hated it. They called me over all the time to the office. They put me in the shoe for it too. I was like, well, we can do this. And then I'm like, just kidding, let me out.
I know, right?
But in the end, I kept doing it, and I got calmer over time. And I'm really glad that I did because I was able to have that, and so that helped me. And then I wrote a book, and I think it's a pretty good book. So, but yeah, if somebody wants to send me a message, I'll send them an Audible version. It's on Audible, it's on Amazon, and it's cool stories of people that have been to prison. So
yeah. Well, Portia, thank you so much for coming on. Who do I have next week? Ben Owens is supposed to be on next week. He does he's everywhere. He's yanking people off the streets of Memphis. He's fighting against human trafficking, especially child trafficking. Yeah. He is helping vets that are on the streets. He's setting up like houses for people to renovate, and then they live in them. And it's just like he's everywhere doing all the things.
That's awesome.
Doing a lot of stuff. Like he has not messaged me back yet from earlier whenever I said, hey, bro, you still coming on next week? So hopefully he still is. Hopefully he remembers. I mean, I got a buddy that has his phone number. And it was just a God thing. I've been trying to connect with Ben for forever. And he's just everywhere. And his posts get hundreds of thousands of views. So he's just he's super cool dude though. Super humble.
That's right. But my buddy,
yeah, hopefully it happens. But he's just doing so much. Like, and he's lived through it. Him and his wife both have lived through addiction. He was, in the military. He was an operator, and he came out of the military. And him and his wife were just all kinds of messed up. And now they go back into the streets and yank people out of the worst parts of Memphis. So
that's amazing.
I can't wait to interview him. And then the week after, just in case he doesn't, Alina Donahue, is that her name?
Yeah. Ooh, I want to hear. She jumped on for a minute. I want to hear her story.
She did. Yeah. She has an amazing story. And we got on a Zoom, and I'm not going to spoil it too much, but I was like, hey, I know it's a sensitive topic, but you talk about it a lot, and I think it's really unique that coming from my perspective of ending the stigma, that you got in trouble for things that you were forced to do, not that you were forced to commit crimes.
Right.
And so you now have the stigma of being a felon. She was like, oh my gosh, nobody's even ever thought about talking about that before. So that's kind of the approach we're going to take to the conversation.
Very cool.
I mean, she's going to tell her story, obviously, but can you imagine getting out and having a felony? It's bad enough you were trafficked as a person, as a human being, but now you have felonies that you had no choice. You were forced to do it. So now you've got a double stigma on you, right?
Right.
So anyway, she is the cool. Have you ever talked to her?
No, but we're linked in friends. Yeah.
So cool.
I'm excited. I'm going to watch.
Yeah. We had a 30-minute Zoom, and it made my day. She's just so bubbly and so happy, and just an amazing person. So anyway.
Cool. Well, thanks everyone for joining, and thanks, Chris.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on and sharing your story. I appreciate it. And thank y'all, everyone that showed up. I say it every week. It's just so humbling that y'all support this, and you support me and my guests. And so thank y'all very much. I appreciate it. Go follow Portia on LinkedIn, connect with her, all the good stuff ring her bell, because seriously, she posts cool stories of some really cool people in there. So anyway, we'll see y'all next week.